So here we are at the Vietnam Memorial in Angel Fire, New Mexico. I've heard quite a bit about this memorial. I hear it's quite amazing, and so I'm going to go through it with you. I can tell you at this point I'm narrating after the fact, so it was in fact as amazing, or if not more amazing, than I'd heard it was. That's the Dan Van is, he has a YouTube channel. And that was also C-Dub's journey. So and later on we'll run into Frugal RV Gal. This helicopter appeared to be in really pristine condition. And even more interesting, I'll stick my camera in the window here, and all the instruments are intact. I mean, this thing looks like you could fire it up and fly it out of here. It really does. It's spotless. I bet it's not a lot different from the day it rolled off the factory floor. So there are two buildings here that you can go into. The first one that we're going to go to, their C-Dubs, is the museum, and the other one is the chapel. We're going to hit the museum first, but we're going to take a look at some of the grounds. The bricks that you see along the sidewalk, each brick has the name and the dates of service of Vietnam veterans. And it's on a beautiful piece of land here in northern New Mexico. You can stand and you can see for miles. There's one of those plaques. And I'll be showing a lot of these things you can kind of freeze and read today if you want to. There's what the vista looks like. I've passed this multiple times with the promise to myself that one day soon, this year, I will stop and do a video, and I'm certainly glad that I did. Now I'm heading over to the museum. And here's the main entrance, and somebody left some fresh flowers here. Had to be very recently, they're very fresh. There's another plaque. And I know you're anxious to see this museum, so here I am, I'm going in. And I make an attempt here to get everything that I saw, at least on film for a couple of minutes. And what I plan to do is in here, I'll show you at the end, is kind of a letter from Dr. Westphall, who donated the land and created this memorial. And I'm going to read the letter to you as you're going through here with me. So I'm going to start now. 13 Marines whose death in the Republic of Vietnam provided the immediate impetus for the founding the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Chapel, and in turn the Day Vietnam Veterans National Memorial. At 5:20 on the afternoon of May 22nd, 1968, Company B, 1st Battalion, 4th Marines was ambushed while on patrol between Con Thien in the DMZ by a numerically superior force of North Vietnamese Army regulars. The attack was repulsed by the men of Bravo, who inflicted heavy losses on the enemy, but 11 of the company were killed on the field of battle and 29 wounded. Sergeant Roger Boyd from Illinois sustained wounds so grievous that he died the following day. Lance Corporal Jerry A. Longtime from Minnesota followed his death on May 25, bringing the total death toll to 13. It happens that, as the founder of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Chapel, I had early on determined that there must be 13 photos in the chapel, that the cross therein must be 13 feet high, and that a 13-star flag, the original flag of our nation, would be flown there. I was born on October 13th, 1913. A year and a half later, I learned from Sergeant Tom McKinney, the first sergeant of Bravo Company, that 11 had died on that May 22nd field of battle. I intuitively rejected it in my mind, the figure of 11. 2 days later, another letter from Sergeant McKinney revealed that 2 others had died shortly after being removed from that field of battle. This total of 13 was the precise number that had earlier been formulated in my mind. This time of revealment was, perhaps, the most sublime moment of my life. Among the slain was my son, First Lieutenant Victor David Westphall III from New Mexico, who commanded 1st Platoon. My wife, Jeanne, along with myself and our surviving son and only other child, Walter Douglas, late that summer of 1968, founded the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Chapel. By inspiration and design from the beginning, the chapel was dedicated to all Vietnam veterans, the living, the dead, and the maimed in body and spirit. This memorial, located at Angel Fire, New Mexico, was the first anywhere dedicated to all Vietnam veterans. Later, the thrust of its consecration was broadened to include the veterans of all our nation's wars. The other dead from Bravo Company were Private First Class David F. Brown from Florida, Captain and Company Commander Robert E. Harris from Kentucky, Private First Class Clyde Hamby, California, Lance Corporal Denver Joseph Berkheimer, Ohio, Lance Corporal Rolando Hernandez, Texas, Private First Class Ray Williams, Georgia, Private First Class Alejandro Diaz, New York, Private First Class William C. Hamaker, New Jersey, Lance Corporal Charles Kirkland from Missouri, and finally Private First Class James R. Joshua from Alabama. It is noteworthy that each of the 13 was from a different state. Respectfully, Victor Westphall, Ph.D., Vietnam Veterans Memorial. I hope you caught as we went through there when I showed you the case of medals, the one at the top with the stars with the blue background is actually a real Congressional Medal of Honor, the highest medal a soldier can receive in the United States. That tradition was started by Abraham Lincoln. I'm really making an effort to show you everything that I saw. And to really understand things, you may have to do a lot of freezing and zooming in. But everything that you see is a genuine artifact from the Vietnam War. You know, I'm 63, which means that in the late 1960s, I was 7, 8, 9 years old, and it was a routine to be seeing news clips on the evening news every night about the Vietnam War. It was all I knew as a young child is the Vietnam War. And I remember the one newscast that really shook me up, and it was that a reporter had been shot. And for some reason, the fact that a reporter was shot really shook me up. I remember thinking, well, that shouldn't happen. That just doesn't seem like that should happen. And it really made it more personal for me, and it scared me. It was a sculpture someone did to honor prisoners of war from Vietnam. I think those are letters home, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember right. You know, it's one thing to have seen these objects, uniforms, equipment on documentaries and movies. It's a whole nother thing to see the real thing in person. So this is the chapel I was speaking of earlier, and we're going to go in and take a look at that. It's a little dark in here. It'll take a minute for the camera to adjust to the low light. But that's Frugal RV Gal doing her little video there. And down there is this very small chapel. And then this thing around here, up on the wall, are the 13 casualties that I just read about. There they are. These brave young men who sacrificed their lives. And that's what I read that was on the wall. So I just picked it up and froze it and read it. Thanks for watching my video.